Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am your host and a wedding photographer at Lydia Rachel Photography. If you haven't heard already, I'm so excited to be hosting the Kiwi Wedding Podcast live, an in-person event in Auckland on Sunday the 3rd of November. There is going to be food, drinks, goodie bags, a beautiful photo backdrop set up and amazing guest speakers. We've got the lovely Gabrielle Houghton, makeup artist and recent bride. You may have already heard her amazing episode. Also, Fritz and Sarah, bespoke wedding dress designers, have also had Sarah on the pod. And we have the wonderful Lisa Langsford from With Love Weddings and Events. She is a planner, stylist, coordinator, and celebrant. So you're going to get lots of amazing advice and inspo from them. Come along, meet other people in the wedding planning season and wedding vendors also. I'll be sharing a bit more about our sponsors in the coming days and weeks, but tickets are available now. I'll pop a link in the show notes. Make sure you grab one as there's a limited amount available and I can't wait to see you there. On today's episode, I chatted to the beautiful Ruby, all about her recent Nelson wedding. We chat through her love story, reasonably short engagement, what they prioritised on their day, all the details and some amazing advice. Make sure you pop over to Instagram to see some of her photos. They are stunning. And let's get right into it. Enjoy episode 66 with Ruby. Hi, Ruby. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So excited to chat to you today.
Hi, Lydia. It's so good to be on. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yay, your wedding looks beautiful. But to start off with, if you could just tell me a bit about you and your husband, how you guys met and your life together.
Totally. So I am a youth worker, youth pastor in Nelson. And so Aaron, my husband, and I met. Well, he's a graphic designer here in Nelson now too, but he was living in Wellington when we met. We actually got set up by mutual friends. So we had not heard of each other, but we had a lot of mutuals. And then two of our closest friends were like, you guys would be perfect together, which was actually a surprise to me. So they were setting us up behind my back, but he knew everything. And so anyway, they managed to get us at the same dinner and we introduced ourselves. Well, actually, I went up to him and said, hi, I'm quite a social person. I said, hi, I'm Ruby, like, nice to meet you. And he didn't respond. And I was like, bad first impression. I thought he was a mean person. And then I was like, oh, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He just hasn't heard me. Introduced myself again. And then he said, oh, I'm Aaron. And then we got along so well. And then the next day was I went home to Nelson and lockdown started. So I thought I'm never going to see him again, but he messaged me on Instagram. It all started. And then we were long distance for a few years before he moved to Nelson and we got engaged and married and here we are. So yeah, it's a very quick version of I didn't know, but he knew who I was.
Love that. Love when like a setup actually works out and when your friends know you super well, that
I know.
actually turns out well for once. So you dated for a while, then got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
Yeah, definitely. So we had kind of talked about getting married and, if that we didn't want to date if we didn't see marriage in the pipelines, And so I kind of expected it to be coming soon at this point. And so any time that we were like going on a date or anything, I was making sure I was looking good just in case. But it never would happen when I thought it was going to happen. And so I kind of thought, oh, he's going to just do it at the most random time. And we'd been at church in the morning, and then after church we were going out for lunch with his brother and sister-in-law who were in town for the weekend. And my parents were away, so I really wasn't expecting it. It was just weird timing all around. And then my mum actually messaged me, so I didn't know she was all in on it, saying, hey, I've just found this Facebook marketplace purchase. I really need you to go pick it up. It's in this spot way out. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine. And we Google mapped it. I kind of couldn't be bothered to go, to be honest, but luckily I was a good daughter and said yes. And so we're driving out, and right before we get to the address she sent me, on the right is this beautiful view. It's called the Kena Cliffs in Nelson. And so it was actually where one of our first dates in Nelson were. And I said to him, we should just stop off and go for a little walk. And so anyways, apparently this was already the plan and there were photographers hiding up there. So he had it lucky. I was planning it for him. And so we start walking up there, and we just started having this really beautiful chat about our relationship, reminiscing, thinking, can't believe we were here a few years ago. This is so special. And we get to the top of the hill, beautiful view. And I just said to him, Aaron, this would be the perfect time and the perfect spot for you to propose. Looking back, I can't believe I said that. So ridiculous. And then he turns to me and just says, oh, would it? And I was like, yeah, haha, you know. And then he goes, okay, pulls out of his pocket this beautiful, so I mentioned he's a designer, he designed this beautiful card, and he opens it and it's like, Ruby, my maiden name's Heslop, so it was Ruby Imogen Heslop. Would you like to be Ruby Imogen Dorfling? And he had this speech all written out and he starts saying it. And I'm like, this feels like a dream because I just said it. I look around and our friends Ari and my sister Paris jumps out of the bushes. I'm like, this is actually happening. So yeah, I was, even though I kind of knew it was going to happen at some point, I was fully surprised. But yeah, it was the best. It was so beautiful.
I love that you had like an inkling or just like spoken into existence almost. But yeah, you're obviously like so aligned, and yeah, so special to have the moment captured, and then yeah, all those lovely words and card as well. Love that.
It's really special because I'm such a words person. Like, I don't know about you, but
Mm.
words is my love language all the way. And adrenaline in the moment, I don't know if there's other girls out there that can relate. When you're getting proposed to, you're just so excited that you can't remember anything they've just said. And so what was so great is then I could just reread it over and over and over again. So I've still got it just sitting in my car, actually. I probably should take it out. But like, so special to be able to reread. So yeah, loved that.
So special to have. Good tip for grooms or yeah, husbands to be write it down. And I know a lot of guys like have this big plan and then it's like an intense moment for them as well and they forget everything they want to say. So yeah, cool if you can just write it down and read it out. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it was perfect for me.
So you had sort of dreamed about getting married. Did you have like a specific vision in mind and style, sort of what you wanted? And yeah, what were those first steps, finding a venue, all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting because growing up, a lot of the role models in my life were all married. And so I always kind of dreamed of being married, but I never really knew, obviously, until I met Aaron, who that person would be. But the idea of a wedding was the dream, but I had no clue what it was like. I was never one of those girls who had my Pinterest board. In fact, even when I was engaged, struggled to have a Pinterest board. I kind of had some ideas in my head, but yeah, I just was never wired like that. And so we kind of started with, okay, what do we want as a venue? And we just decided we'd love an outdoor ceremony. And that kind of painted how the rest of our aesthetic of the wedding went, I suppose. And so we were looking around, and Nelson's pretty limited with venues. And the few really good ones there are, everyone's gotten married there. And so we were like, how do we find one that we think is amazing, but no one's really gotten married at? And my parents kind of jokingly said, why don't you go get married where we got married at this chapel up on the hill? And I was like, oh yeah, it's got a good idea. And thinking, oh, we really would love an outdoor wedding, but a chapel would be beautiful. So we searched it up. Bishopdale Chapel was the name of it back then. And it came up with Pihopa Retreat. And we were like, what is this? And clicked on it. And where my parents had gotten married, they had kind of turned into this beautiful retreat, gardens. There's the most amazing, it kind of feels like European vibe, which for Nelson is awesome. And so we were like, this is the spot. We went and checked it out, and no one had really gotten married outdoors in the area we wanted to. And so we were like, this is so special. We get to be where my parents got married, which was funny because it was really sentimental to us, but my parents were kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, they didn't really care. But but we were like, this is so good. And yeah, so that was beautiful. And that kind of really painted the scene of, okay, we want really simple, just kind of let the venue speak for itself, a few like beautiful florals. And then the reception, we wanted somewhere also with a cool view. And so we found, which a lot of our friends had gotten married there, the Boathouse, which is actually like a restaurant on the waterfront of one of the iconic beaches in Nelson. So that was like just perfect because we're like, we get the view, quite a different vibe from the ceremony, but we can keep it in the same like simple, very white style wedding, like white and neutral kind of color scheme. And so it was just stunning. We loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it looked beautiful in your photos, and so special to have somewhere unique, especially if you're in the era where all your friends are starting to get married and in a bit smaller of a town, there's not as many options. So yeah, you
Yeah.
found a winner there for sure. What were the most important elements of the day for you, your kind of top priorities when it came to different vendors, style, vibe, all of that?
There was a few things that were really important to us, but in terms of including it in our day, our faith was one of the most important priorities. Like, how do we incorporate that into our day? But in terms of vendors, definitely photography. Like, we both just thought, other than your marriage, the only thing that lasts, and obviously you're a photographer, so you would agree with this, the only thing that lasts longer than your wedding day really is your photos. That's like what will last a lifetime. And so we were like, we don't really want to cheap out or go with someone's style that we don't absolutely love. And so we were really stoked with our images. But yeah, that and probably food as well. We've been at a few weddings where food maybe hasn't been a big priority, and it does, as a guest, I think, make you kind of feel like it does make the day kind of hard. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, we were like, we
Yeah.
really want some yummy food, especially at the dinner. So yeah, that was important to us. Photos, food, and then maybe the outfits. But that wasn't really like our top thing. But yeah.
Amazing. And yeah, can you tell me a bit about your outfits? Your dress was stunning. How was that whole process? Finding it, getting it made? Yeah.
Oh, the process was difficult, I tell you. Yeah, I did not have the experience of my first dress I tried on was the perfect one. It was made it quite difficult too because Nelson actually has no bridal stores. So if anyone listening to this podcast wants to start a bridal store in Nelson, the market is there. My mum and I flew to Christchurch for the day, and we had quite a short engagement. So we got engaged in October and then we were married in March. So it was about 5 months. And we just decided, we were like, we just want to be married. We knew we could pull it together. And to be honest, everything was so easily pulled together for us, except for the outfits. Like, that is the thing that I don't think I realized. If you want to get a custom dress, or even if you just want a dress from a bridal store, you have to have time, even with the rush fees and whatever. So went down to Christchurch, had about 4 appointments booked at different places. I found some that I thought were okay at all of them. And then the last appointment I went to, I found the dream dress, like absolutely amazing. And then the price tag was crazy, you know? So it was a lot out of our budget. And I was just gutted. My mum and I were there like crying. We were like, what do we do? I either have to wear a dress that I know I didn't feel that, oh my gosh, this is the dress moment, or we have to spend this crazy amount of money, which, you know, I guess it's that one day of your life that you really want to go all out. But pretty much we were like, we need a miracle, and we went back to that place that we found that one dream dress. And then the lady was like, hey, while you were gone, I found this other dress that I think you would really suit. I know it's not necessarily the style you thought you'd pick, but try it on anyway. And so I tried it on, and I was like, wow, this is not what I expected to pick. And maybe my like body shape and all of that played a part, and what I kind of pictured didn't really suit me. But this particular one, I was like, I feel like a princess bride. Like, I felt like a bride, you know? And I was like, this is it. And then I looked at the price tag, and it was still a lot of money. I think it was a similar amount. And I was like, oh, now I just have to pick between two really expensive ones. And then I just had this feeling. I was like, nah, I've just got to ask, how much is this? I just had that gut feeling. And so I asked, and she said, oh, actually, this is the last one. So we'll give it to you on a sample price. This was at Hira, and they gave it to me for probably 85% off, which was just crazy. And so now, like, my budget, it was half of my budget, and I was like, this is the dream. And so instead of having to spend like double my budget, that was awesome. So it made it a no-brainer. I was like, I have to go for that one. It just felt like it was meant to be. So yeah, that was the dress scenario. It was quite a major. And on the way down, sorry if this grosses anyone out, but I got so motion sick on the flight. It was awful that I was like letting it out, and that was not a glamorous way to start the day. But yeah, so got that dress. I know, terrible. It was a chosen by Kaiha dress, so that was awesome. I had gloves, which that was one of my favorite details of the day. I'd seen some people definitely have the embroidery trend going on, but no one that I really knew, and not super, it wasn't super popular in New Zealand when I was kind of planning the wedding. But I got these gloves made with part of our vows on it, embroidered on. It was beautiful. I loved it. And then one of my besties, which was one of my bridesmaids, made my veil for me. And then my shoes were me Piachi. So yeah, it all kind of came together. My husband, Aaron, he couldn't find a suit he liked at all. And then we found a place that hired them out. So it was hilarious. We're like, oh, he just didn't want to spend thousands on a suit he was never going to wear again. And then we found a place that hired them out for $120. So we went with that because it was like his dream suit anyway. And we were like, he's never going to wear it. So that definitely helped out the budget, hiring the guy's suit.
Yeah, especially if guys don't have a job or like, yeah, not often going to things you have to wear a suit, then definitely hire it. But yeah, so cool to hear about your dress process. And it's not always like a smooth one for everyone, but yeah, worked out in the end. And yeah, I love that story and just like asking for how much it all just like fell into place. But yeah, you looked stunning on the day and all those details, the gloves and stuff I loved. So beautiful. Who was in your bridal party? How did you find that process choosing them? Was that quite easy?
It was a really interesting one for us because it was easy, like so easy, but then there was moments of it that we were like, oh, should we be including that person? Should we be making our bridal party bigger? I've got two sisters, and so that for me was a no-brainer. I was like, I love my sisters. We're best friends. I'm going to have them, and they're both younger than me, so they'd never been a bridesmaid. So that was quite exciting for them as well. And then we've both got he's got a brother that he included. And then we both have quite a big friend group. But I think over the years, we've definitely had people who have just stuck by our side no matter what, being just, those rocks. You know what I mean? Like people just that you can trust no matter what. And even though we have probably a lot of people that fit into that bracket, we ended up choosing people that we know, number one, are going to be in our lives forever. Well, that's always the hope, isn't it? But number two, ones that had played a big part in our relationship together. I think sometimes people kind of pick people that have been friends with them historically, but maybe aren't really in their world now. But we were like, no, we've actually got some really close friends that have played a big part. And so one of my bridesmaids was, and one of his groomsmen was the couple that set us up. And then my other bridesmaids, we had four each. My other bridesmaid was like my best friend from birth, so it just made sense to us. It wasn't too difficult, but I think because we have so many other friends, we were like, we definitely could have had a bridal party of 30, but that's getting ridiculous, isn't it? So we just chose
Yeah.
four. But yeah, it is hard. Where's the line? You see brides in America, especially with like 30 bridesmaids, and like that must have been crazy admin for starters. But it was just the right people. You even have to think about who's going to be the right people on the day, like who is going to make me feel just so excited and calm, and like I'm just having the best day, not trying to walk on eggshells or just make them feel happy, but no, they're just here for me today. And so I definitely had that with my girls. So yeah, it was easy, but there's glimmers of people that I kind of felt like they probably thought they were going to be picked. That's the difficult part. Yeah. And you're like, anyways, won't go on that too much.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Yeah, the right people on the day, but yeah, it is hard, especially when you have a big friend group, and yeah, like you say, you can't have 30 people. It's so much admin, and some of those weddings you see are like multi six figure budget.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
That's
insane.
that's a
But
dream, isn't
yeah.
it?
And how about the guest list? How did you go with that? Was that quite difficult to narrow down?
Yeah, that was the hardest part of it for sure. We have I think because we'd lived in different cities for our whole life. So we both had our own life, our own friends we grew up with, family friends, families in general. I've got a huge family. Aaron's got a smaller family because, well, he's got a big family, but they're all in South Africa. So he has like quite a small family in New Zealand. But our friend circles were huge, and we've both grown up in churches. I was a pastor's kid. So I think there was like when you come from a big church and everyone feels like they've been a big part of your life, which they have, that was really difficult kind of picking, okay, these are our people. And so I think we could have easily, if we'd had a venue that would have catered to it, we could have easily had over 500 people at our ceremony, but we didn't want that, and there's no venue that we liked that would cater to that. So we squished about 140 people into our ceremony, which in the little section of our outdoor area was definitely squished. There were a few people on the chairs that were slightly slanted over on the hill, and apparently that was a bit of an ab workout for them. So definitely think about the practicalities. We were like, we can fit this many people, but maybe we shouldn't have put some people through that. But then we had about 100 at our reception. Yeah. So it was, that for us was a really small wedding, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not necessarily a small wedding. But yeah, so it was hard, and definitely we've noticed changes in people who are probably in that outer circle that we love, and they've been in our life, but it's been interesting seeing the way that they've, like not in church, but just in our lives in general, just people that probably thought they were going to be there but wasn't. It is interesting. So we found that really hard. It was the longest process going through who was it going to be. Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people say that, and it is so difficult, especially, yeah, when you come from big families, big communities, and
Mm,
then if there are those like assumptions that come up from people, and I don't know, maybe they don't realize how much a wedding costs, or just like the venue practicalities, because yeah, if you did have 500 people, then sometimes you just have to have this like ugly function center, or
I know.
like
I
that's the
know.
only options, and it's not, yeah, necessarily what you dreamed of. But yeah, sounds like you landed on a nice number, and it's good having different venues where you can have a bit more at the ceremony and still involve those extra people, and then slightly less at the reception.
I think as well, we were really thinking, okay, how do we honor the really close people in our life that have traveled? As an example, like if I personally think, well, some of my family traveled from the UK for it, which just blew my mind. They came, yeah, it was amazing. And then we had lots of people from all over New Zealand, Australia. Yeah, it was incredible. But I thought, okay, if I'm traveling from the UK for someone's wedding, do I want to be treated? I don't know, like how do I want to be treated? And we knew that we wouldn't be able to create a really nice experience for 500 people. Like in our budget, we just couldn't do that. And so we thought we would rather honor the people who we are having and make it a really nice day for them. And it's for us, obviously, but we don't want to cheap out on all of the things. So yeah, that's something to think about as well. What kind of experience is it going to be for guests if you have more than what you can really afford to have? It is hard. It's a brutal thought process, but you've kind of got to go through with that.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And yeah, can you tell us a bit about the big day, how it all went down, and yeah, any highlights or favorite moments?
Yes, I love talking about it. So the day we found it really hard to pick a date. I don't know, I don't hear many people talking about this, but it is so random. Like you just pick a random date and hope that people can make it. But we kind of ended up basing it around that what date the venue was available and our photographer, like those two dates when we were like, we can kind of get anyone else in on it. But it was really difficult to pick because of some of our like family's careers. So one, my father-in-law, he's a doctor for one of the Super Rugby teams, and so he's away almost every weekend in different cities and countries. And so we were like, how are we going to find a day that not only is he even around, but just everyone would be able to make work? And so we ended up going with Easter weekend, the day before the Thursday. And we loved it. And I think we got only positive feedback because anyone who was traveling came for the Thursday and then had the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. And so could make it like an extended holiday where they didn't really have to take much work off. So that was really cool. But the day itself was beautiful. We honestly, I think there was a couple of things on the setup day that didn't go exactly to plan. That's pretty classic though. But the day itself was so smooth. Like, I cannot believe it. People just would keep coming up to us. And I think definitely a big part of it was our celebrant was a really close family friend and pastor, and he's just incredible. Jared, shout out. He probably won't listen to this, but if you do, we love you. I'll force him to listen. But he made it so smooth, like so incredible. And same with the reception. One of our great friends and Aaron's pastor Ed, he emceed it just like a genius. Like it was so smooth. The whole day was just perfect. And then randomly, because I feel like usually you go to a wedding and the part people kind of dread is the speeches. Like, I don't know if that's a universal experience, but generally there's always a couple of weird ones. No, the speeches. And so we
Yeah.
were like, we really were particular who we were going to pick. And we had our parents, one sibling, which was our maid of honor and best man, and then ourselves. So we really kept it limited. But that meant that, and all of them had communication experience. So it was quite interesting. It was like amazing speeches. And that was one of our biggest compliments. They just thought, oh, the food was great. The whole day was beautiful, but the speeches were amazing. And I just thought that was crazy. So definitely pick wisely who you have your speeches. And if you're into open mic, do it. But we personally weren't. We just thought, who knows what's going to come out. Um, so yeah, beautiful day. But it was quite interesting, the things that stood out for us. It was definitely the sentimental moments and the fact that we'd gotten married. Like that moment of being announced husband and wife, that was definitely one of the most special moments ever of my life, and I'm sure of Erin's too. But it was wild. We were just like, how we're just standing in front of our favorite people and we're married. Like this was just the best feeling. So yeah, great day. That was probably all my favorite moments. I loved the in between moments too, but it is interesting how many people you don't get to really have conversations with. You're swept away for the photos, and then we had a bit of time to quickly sit down and eat our dinner, but we didn't even get a chance to eat our like beautifully plated dessert. I think we actually, at the end of the night, once the kind of dance party was over, we quickly went and grabbed our ones that got put aside. And we were like, we're gonna go have our beautiful dessert that we'd requested. We had this our favorite dessert is pavlova, so we had the most amazing house-made pavlovas. I was like, I'm not missing out on this. But yeah, beautiful day. I think if it's really about getting married, then the day will be special no matter how it pans out. So that's what it was for us, but we were just really blessed that Aaron's a creative, so he put together all the details of like, which is quite cool because I don't hear of many grooms kind of playing a big part in the planning process, but he did all the design work and everything like that. And then I'm an admin girl, so I kind of between the two of us, we hit our run sheets for the day. Like it was happening how we've planned it, and so yeah, we were really happy with that. We did not need a wedding coordinator. Obviously, if you're not an admin person, definitely get one. But we were fine without it, so that's not really advice I hear very often. If you're good at admin, just do it yourself. Saves a lot of money.
Yeah, so good. Sounds like you both had complementary strengths. And then I know, like growing up in church and stuff, you've been involved in a lot of event planning, I guess, which can translate. Sounds like it was a wonderful day. And yeah, so cool that everything just fell into place. And yeah, I love that advice about the speeches. They can definitely go on, or people need to be given a
Mm,
time limit sometimes. I've seen that, but it can be a
yes.
real highlight of the day if it is done well, and yeah, choose wisely. And what did you find hardest about the whole wedding planning process? Is there anything that you look back on and regret or would do a bit differently?
I think definitely the hardest parts were kind of some of those ones that I mentioned, like guest list, the dress saga, that was something else. And I think also there's just like this pressure around weddings. It's like it's the best day of your life. It's got to be perfect. You've got to look the best you've ever looked. All of this kind of thing. And I think as well, social media ramps it up, and you kind of compare what you've planned to other people. And so that was definitely. I think the hardest part was that, just realizing, okay, it's actually, even though that's a really exciting element of it, that's not what it's about. And so we have no regrets about how we did our day, because we really feel like it was all about the fact that we just are married now. And so I think if it's about your marriage, and it doesn't get so much about the aesthetics and how many likes am I going to get on this post? You know what I mean? Like, what type of photos am I going to create here? Then it really shouldn't matter how the day panned out. Of course, there's some horror stories of how, you know, weather and all of that kind of thing. And we were really blessed that none of that kind of affected it. It was spitting right before the ceremony and then stopped right as we went. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think as long as it's about you guys getting married, that's the best. And so yeah, we have no regrets about what we actually ended up doing because of that. So stoked with how our day panned out. Even, and those little kind of imperfection moments, just they make such great stories, you know? Like we were kind of thinking about the end of the night. So we had because it was a weeknight wedding. That was probably one thing that we didn't really think about that it did have to be shut down at 11, so it was an early finish. But we were like, it's all good. We'll be dancing till 11 on the dot. We had one of our great friends who was actually like a very well known producer, DJ for us. So that was awesome. And he doesn't really generally DJ at weddings. So we felt really special that he would do that for us. But we were like, okay, yep, DJ till the moment, like 11 o'clock, get the best songs for the last couple, and then we'll like go. Because, you know, I don't know, we wanted to be there for the whole night, but there is a point where it's weird that the bride and groom are still there. And so we were like, we'll leave on like the last song before it's like too weird. But we were still there, and then the venue person, bless him, he was really lovely, but he just came up to us at about 11:15. He goes, "Why hasn't this been shut down yet? It needs to be dead silent by 11." And we're like, "What? This is not what had been told to us." And so we said, "Oh, we'll go let the DJ know. Can he do a couple more songs in like a couple minutes before 11 finished?" And he's like, "Nah, this is the last song." And it was like halfway through, so we thought, okay, we'll just get him to do one more. Someone goes and tells him, and this is not at all the DJ's fault whatsoever. He was incredible in just doing what he was told. But someone went up and said, "This has to be the last song. Finish it." And so it literally, the last song just finished, and then the music was just gone, and everyone was just standing there. We're like, I guess it's over. And then we really wanted to slip out, kind of like, you know, I guess discreetly. And then my mum, oh, she's the most hilarious woman. If you know Rebecca, she's just crack up. But she goes, "Tunnel, everybody!" And we're like, no. They put everybody get together and made a tunnel that we had to run through. And for some people, that's how they want to exit. But for us, that was our worst nightmare. But to be fair, it actually ended up working well, because we didn't have to stay and say goodbye to every person. We just could like leave. And so we did that. But apparently the second we run out of the door, we'd put one of the things we'd set up for the reception was this beautiful kind of fabric drapery feature. And the second we left the room, because it had taken ages to set up, but I guess you can just pull it down and it comes down fast. We ran around the corner, someone just pulls it down, the lights went on, music's gone, and it was just like, it's all over. And so I think our families were quite sad, because they're like, well, that was abrupt, you know, like it's gone. But up until that moment, it was perfect. But we were like, oh, that's so classic, hey? Just like the venue going, cut it out, like, oh, music complaints. But no, it was good. It was great.
Oh my gosh, such an abrupt ending. But yeah, you have to look back and laugh, I guess. It's like a funny story now.
I know. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, it probably wasn't how we were planning. That was the one thing we planned that didn't really turn out how we thought it would. The ending.
I think there's something people don't really think about.
Yeah, like how does it end? Like we probably should have just had some like slow music kind of playing in the background, tinkering about while people were just kind of slowly leaving. But I think it was the fact that it was like, cut the music. So dramatic. But no, it was awesome. We loved it. It was hilarious looking back as well.
So good. And how did you go with the whole budget side of things? Were you like surprised how much you spent? You kind of went over. What was that process like?
So the process was really interesting for us, because we have had friends get married on probably two very different ends of the spectrum. Ones who had spent probably like 50, 60, 70K, and then others who had done it for under 10, you know? And so definitely didn't want to spend this like in that kind of 50, 60, 70 range. And we thought, surely we can do it cheaper than this, but still have our dream day. But we didn't want to do the kind of like BYO food style either. You know, we were like wanted somewhere in the middle where it was just like beautiful, simple. It was like, I guess, the features that we thought were really important to us. And so we found it actually, once we came up with the number we wanted to spend, it was definitely a lot lower than 50, but a bit higher than the 10 mark, somewhere in the middle. We thought, okay, we're sticking to this no matter what. And I'm not kidding. We did not go over budget. I think we went over budget by $50. We
Wow.
put together the most extreme Excel spreadsheet. Shout out to Michelle, my mother-in-law. She was like, what can I do? And she's amazing with finances. And so she put it together, and we were like, okay, how much do we want to spend on our outfits? What's realistic? And obviously things changed as we went through, but we're like, okay, well, we spent a little bit more than we thought in this area. We'll just cut a little bit out of this area. And so I think if you're like really, if you're particular about it and you keep going, like keep track of it, we had a separate account that was like purely wedding, and so we could see, you know, we put all of it into there, and then we could see how much we had left, so we weren't going over, you know. And that worked really well for us. So definitely recommend doing that, unless you're kind of saving as you go. But we were blessed that we were able to kind of just have it there, and we just decided we don't want to spend more than this. But yeah, Excel spreadsheet or whatever kind of way to keep your budget is definitely worth it, because that for us was a game changer. So yeah, I think that you can do weddings. I mean, one thing for us, for example, that I know other people spend like can spend up to 10 to 20K on is flowers. For us, like we love flowers, but that wasn't a priority for us. You know, we did like a couple of pretty, I don't know what they're called, installment kind of pieces that were at the ceremony, and then we moved them to the reception, had our bouquets for the girls, and then other than that, we actually got wholesale flowers, and we put together our own table settings the day before in vases, and that was, I think, yeah, all up, it was not very much, you know. We spent the money on the particular things, get the professionals to do that, and oh my goodness, we do not regret that at all. Like florists are amazing, but for us, we were like, we just couldn't justify spending that much on flowers. So I think, yeah, definitely choose what your priorities are, and don't feel like you have to do what other people do either. Like that was probably the one thing that I thought, oh, do we have enough flowers? Is it going to be okay? But it ended up working out so well with our look of the day. So just keeping it minimal. We just did like white roses everywhere in the reception, and wholesale they weren't too much. So that was awesome. But yeah, definitely stick to the budget, choose what you want to do, and it'll be fine, you know. It is
Yeah,
hard
no,
though.
that's great advice. Yeah.
You have to pick what you're going to
It
sacrifice,
is.
eh? Like we would have loved a videographer. Like that was probably the one thing. A videographer would have been so special, but we just couldn't afford it, you know? So we decided, okay, well, what's our next best option? And we have a lot of friends, like it's quite amazing. Almost all of our friends are in the creative industry. And so half of our friends were just like, what can we do to help? And so a couple of our besties had camcorders, and then one camera was set up. So we had the ceremony captured from start to finish on like a nice camera video, so we could just rewatch it for the two of us, because that was something we were like, we just want a video of it. And then we had camcorders that while we're getting ready, some of our bridal party were going around with them. Then they were filming sections at the ceremony and the photos at the reception. And so some of our friends are actually putting together a video for us, which is so special. So you can definitely make do with what you have. I've seen people do like film cameras and you chuck them around on the tables and guests take it. You know, there's options. But yeah, for us, that would have been something, if we could have afforded it, definitely video, that we would have loved to do that.
Yeah, so good. You can definitely get a bit creative when you have a limited budget and you might not necessarily afford the whole thing, or yeah, even just spending some things on the important flowers and getting your own, or yeah, just meeting in the middle, stuff like that. That's great advice. And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
We did. So our wedding was the Thursday, and then we left. Oh, not the Friday. That was Good Friday, and we thought that was going to be too chaotic to travel. So we went Saturday morning. It was like a 6 a.m. flight, so we had to be at the airport at 4:30 or something ridiculous. But it was awesome. We went to the Gold Coast in Aussie, and for us that was just awesome because it wasn't too far away that we felt like after the exhaustion of the wedding it was too much. But we got kind of like our little overseas fix, you know. So that was really cool. So we got to go there. And to be honest, the planning process, we pretty much just booked our flights and accommodation. And then we're like, we'll just see when we get there what we feel like doing. Like, we didn't really know. Are we going to feel like doing the theme parks and doing that? Or are we just going to want to relax by the pool? So we got a beautiful apartment on the beachfront. And on our floor, there was only like 3 other apartments, but we had we were on the floor with the indoor pool. It was like 40 stories up or something, and it was stunning. So we could just like leave our room. There was the pool, the spa, the sauna right there. Oh, it was a dream. I'm thinking back, like, take me back. But yeah, so we had no regrets going straight away. It was quite special just being like in our own little bubble. And it really felt like a honeymoon, because it was just, we went straight away. We kind of like we messaged, like we kind of shut off from all of our personal world. Like we did message our family a few photos of like, here's what we're up to, But other than that, it was pretty much like, this is just our time together. And so we loved it. We did go to a couple of theme parks, but I don't know. It was good. Aaron had never been to one, so it was quite cool to go to that. But yeah, we loved it. Other than this was an admin thing I knew could have been an issue, but I didn't think it was going to be possible getting my passport changed between the Thursday and the Saturday morning. Because I'm like, there was just no way with the public holiday that I would have been able to get a new passport with my new last name. So I just traveled on my maiden name, and we got split up at customs. So that was interesting, which was fine. But Aaron had only traveled overseas once, and it was like a school trip, a missions trip. And so he had never really done the process, and he was the one who had to go be like searched in the bags and everything. His phone wasn't working. And so that was how our honeymoon started. It was like an hour of being split up. And the lady said, "Are you traveling by yourself?" And he's like, "No, with my wife." And they're like, "What? Why did you get split up?" So yeah, next time we travel overseas, I will have my new passport. But anyway, he was fine. He survived.
Oh, that's crazy. I haven't heard of that happening because a lot of people don't even like legally change their name for a long time, and they should let you stay together
No.
that you're married. But
Yeah, well, the lady said that. She was like, people don't usually get split up. And when we got split up, there was this guy at the customs, and he kind of, I don't know, like, he almost just looked like he was smirking as he sent us different ways. Like, I feel like he was having a bad day and just wanted to spice some things up at his work, you know? Like, he was like, "All right, you this way, you this way." But maybe a part of it was Aaron had both of our bags. He was just being a gentleman. He was carrying all my luggage, and I was just standing there. So maybe he just thought he looked sus with all those bags. But anyways,
sometimes depends who you get on the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Were there any helpful websites, apps, different resources that you used during the wedding planning process?
100%. I think a lot of them are pretty well known, but definitely, like I mentioned, Excel was like my best friend, which is a classic, and you kind of have to make your own. I mean, I'm sure there's templates you can download though, but with Joy Fast was really awesome. That was how we sent out all of our invites. That's a really popular one, and it's totally free. So we just thought that was amazing. And because Aaron's friends and family and my friends and family, of course, in Wellington, we're in Nelson, people all overseas and across New Zealand in general, we just didn't bother with the paper invites. We kind of thought, it's not going to be worth the hassle, you know. We just thought they're going to get lost in the mail. So that was amazing for us. And even things like dietary requirements, yeah, like gathering information, it was perfect. So definitely with Joy. Another one that I hadn't heard of, which I'm not sure if someone's recommended here before, is planning.wedding. So random, but I was trying to come up with something to sort out our seating chart, which I think the second hardest thing after planning who's coming is who's sitting next to who. That was difficult. And so there's this free resource again, and you can design what table sizes, how many are going to sit there. You enter all the guest list names, and then you plonk them in each seat, and you can shuffle them around. And then there's this really awesome feature. So it's all free, but then if you want to create almost like a PDF, which we did this, it was something like $12, because if this is all it's costing for me to do invite, seating chart, info for the caterer, this is amazing. And it created, so if, for example, I think about half our guest list had dietary requirements. Like I've got dietary requirements. We've obviously attracted that into our life allergies, but anyways, so we were like, this is going to be an admin nightmare, but it wasn't at all, because we could be like, Ruby is sitting here, gluten, dairy free, and it coded it all. And then we just handed it to our caterer, and then they could just take them rather than us having to do our own sketching and trying to figure it out. So planning.wedding was awesome. And we were talking about it before, but the Kiwi Wedding podcast, of course, that came out right before we got engaged. And so I've been a big fan of you, Lydia. Number one over here. I listened to when it came out, it was maybe, I think I started listening when I got engaged, but I listened to every single podcast. I was like, Tuesday morning, I know when it's coming out, I'm ready to go. And so that was actually really helpful in hearing people's advice about things that maybe you didn't normally think about. That was awesome for me. So yeah, we're very blessed to have you, Lydia.
Oh. Oh, so good. I love having brides on that have like listened and used it as well. So lovely to hear. And I don't think anyone's mentioned that planning.wedding, was it? So yeah, that's a really good one for people to look into, because I know that can be a bit of a punishing process if you don't have a tool like
Oh
that,
yeah.
for sure. So good. And you've given so much already, but yeah, is there any other advice that you would give to couples planning their wedding at the moment?
Definitely, as long as you're picking what you want, there's going to be so many voices saying their opinions, and I'm sure that's been talked about heaps on here. But I think we really wanted to know what our parents wanted for the day. Like that was important to us, that our families were happy with what we were picking. But at the end of the day, the things we decided were up to us. So yeah, make sure it's what you want for your wedding. I know that there can be really difficult family dynamics for some people, that it's kind of like you don't feel like you've got a choice. But just remembering, at the end of the day, it is about you getting married and whether you can communicate that with them or not. But the other thing is definitely towards the end of our like engagement, we were so just sick of wedding planning. We were so excited, and that's funny because we were only engaged for 5 months. So I can't even imagine for those who are engaged for like a couple of years how you would feel. But maybe it was because we had a short period of time. It was like we'd go to work all day, we'd come home, wedding plan, work, wedding plan, work, wedding plan. And so it kind of took over all of our conversations. But we decided in the last wee while, we obviously were going on dates regularly anyway, but we are like, we're going on a date a week where we ban talking about wedding. We were like, there is no conversations happening about wedding. We are just hanging out. And we actually had like a little phone ban too. It just happened naturally. We were like, just leave our phones in the cars when we go for a walk on the beach, and we'd just hang out, remember why we're getting married in the first place. So yeah, that's definitely, that was really key for us. Just having some moments where you ban talking about it. So otherwise it takes over everything.
Absolutely. That's such great advice. I think that's healthy to communicate that and put in a few boundaries and just, yeah, take it back to it's actually about us and our love and our future marriage. And yeah, let's just like be with each other, not in this like hectic planning phase 24/7. So yeah, I love that. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post wedding blues?
I think this is a great question, and it's so interesting to hear how different people respond. And I feel like a lot of people do get the wedding blues. For us, we have had none of that. And I think a big part of it is because for us, marriage changed everything about how our relationship was. So our faith played a big part in that, and our, I guess, boundaries and how we wanted to have our relationship. So we never lived together, we never had sleepovers, never like, all of that kind of thing, never went on a holiday together. Everything about our life was like, if we're married, that is when we combine. And so for us, marriage literally changed everything. That the wedding was the smallest part of what was changing. You know what I mean? So the wedding planning process was massive, but I think we were just so stoked because we we're like, okay, we don't have to plan a wedding anymore. But now we just get to be married and be together and enjoy this new life of being combined and, as unified. So yeah, I have not had a single moment where I've had the wedding blues, which is, I think, quite unique for people. So yeah, we're just so stoked to be married, and we're so glad with how we've done our relationship process. I just know like so many of my friends who have been so hurt because they've been so involved with a person and then it's not worked out, and we just knew we didn't want that for our relationship. So yeah, I don't hopefully that makes sense, but we were just so stoked to be like,
Mm.
yeah, we're married now, and we don't have to plan another wedding ever. So yeah. Wedding, I don't know, what's the opposite of the wedding blues? The joy of it over.
Wedding high. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We had the
So
best
good.
best day ever. I think I would have had the wedding blues if the day hadn't been awesome. But because it went so smooth and because it wasn't really about the wedding day itself for us, that's why we just have no sadness. We can just look back and be like, we had the best day ever, yep. And we, like, all of our dreams and goals of what we wanted it to be, it turned out awesome. But really, it was never about that for us. So, yeah, I think that's when people can feel the wedding blues a bit more, when it's kind of like maybe they've already been together for a very long time, living together. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, the only thing that really changed is my last name, and then the fact that I no longer have a wedding to look forward to. Whereas for us, it was the opposite. So yeah, yeah, it's food for thought for people maybe. How to, yeah. to protect yourself, protect your heart, you know?
Yeah, interesting perspective for people to hear. And yeah, it's like a lot changed for you. Whereas, yeah, a lot of people say, oh, nothing really changed. We just had this big party and then I had like my evenings free again, like
Yeah.
felt a bit lost. No, it's cool to hear there's so many different ways that people do things. Amazing. It's been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there anything else you wanted to add as we wrap up?
I think I think that's it. Like, just have the best day, but really focus on why are we getting married. Invest more into your future marriage than into your wedding day is what I would say. Like, we had pre-marriage counseling, which was the best thing for us. So that's one random little tip I would recommend for people. If you've not thought about doing that, definitely pre-marriage counseling is awesome. And yeah, just really remember, why are we getting married? This is not, it is about the day, but that's not why you get married, you know? So have the best time, enjoy it, listen to Lydia's podcast. It's so helpful. But yeah, just want to say thank you for having me on here. It's such an honor.